Okay, so now that you have sewn your part of your gusset around to your front main panel, it should look like this. Okay? And your back part is open. So now we're just going to set this aside. Let me cut my strings. And hopefully with you trying to sew this piece on, you know, coming around your edges, hopefully that worked for you. Again, I just need to remember to snip my corners a little bit to fold them in when I'm gluing so that it makes that rounded piece, so that it makes it really easier to maneuver when trying to sew on this type of a machine. I'm just going to set that aside. So now the pattern calls for our main flap along with our main body lining. So I'm going to get two pieces. Okay, so this is from your, now this is from your lining, okay? So this is your main flap, the piece that has the curve going across the top. And then your main lining is squared off at the top corners and rounded around the side or the bottom. Okay, so you should have already drawn on the back of your pieces from the pattern, right? Remember how I talked about it earlier, to make sure whatever the pattern has on it with the lines and everything, you are just to draw the outline as well on your pattern pieces, okay? So hopefully you can see I've drawn the outline all the way around as if stabilizer or something would have gone in, or I'm going to tape down or glue, right? So, and I did the same thing with this main lining. Also, what you would have noticed on the main lining at the very top of the pattern, and that would have been your piece H3, you would have seen a little like italicized line going straight across, like at a 1/4 inch. So you should also trace that to where it goes across the top at a 1/4 inch from the top to that line, right? And the same thing with your main flap lining, your H1 and H2. So on the bottom of the H2, when you have attached this one piece, you would see the same thing, another 1/4 inch line that goes straight across the bottom panel. So you make sure that you have everything drawn as is, okay? Make sure that you also are marking your centers on both pieces also. So what we're going to do is take some more double-sided tape and for the main flap lining, piece H1 that's attached to H2, you're just going to put double-sided tape on the outside going across the top and back down the next side. Do not put it on the bottom, okay? Do not put the double-sided tape on your H3 main lining piece either. Just on the H1, H2 combination on both sides and the top. So let's get our double-sided tape and let's place. Now my needle is very sticky. I'm gonna clean it before I start to sew this, and then I'm gonna clean it again afterwards. Now when you place the tape, your tape is going to go on the line. So the part of your tape will be on the line going into the pattern, into the center, not going towards the end, okay? Just like we taped a little earlier with going inside. Because when we fold from the outside, we just want to make sure it's folded just enough, okay? So you'll go down to the bottom. So as you can see what I've done, this is the outer part, and I put the tape right on the line that we had marked, okay? And let me put some more light over here. So again, the tape is on the line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for going around the curve. So I'm going to put the tape on the inside here of the curve. That's more so towards the center of the pattern. And on the outer side here, that's going in towards, not that way. Okay. And like I said, sometimes this double-sided tape does not like to stick to certain fabrics. I am using waterproof canvas for my lining. And this brand does not like to stick as well. So I'm just trying to push it down more with my nail to make sure that it stays. And I'm just replacing this tape here to where it's on the line and not over the line. Okay. And as you can see, it's starting to come up on my side. Because this, like I said, this particular brand of waterproof canvas does not like this brand of double-sided tape. Now you could also use glue for this, or you can wing it. So if you're good at folding and clamping and you don't want to use all this tape, just fold and clamp. Okay, because it will get sewn eventually. Okay, so I'm just trying to secure this tape a little bit more. Ooh, I'm having a time with it. Staying down. Okay. It just does not want to cooperate. But we're going to make it work. Okay, so once you have your tape on, then you're going to go ahead and peel that and secure your sides. So fold your sides in to where it meets the top line of the tape. Okay. Let me hurry up and try and get this tape down before it lifts up some more. Alright. Let's see what I'm working with. Okay, and I'm just going to try and take it all off so I can do it pretty quickly. Going around the area. Okay. And once you do this, or even before you start to tape it down, you may want to draw out your midpoint lines just a little more further in, because when you fold this over, it will cover your center markings. So as soon as I can get this part of the tape off, because it does not want to come off, then I'm going to remark my lines, my center lines going in just a little further. Let me just get my seam ripper to lift up a little bit, trying to catch the tape outer part only, because like I said, it wants to keep, if you can see, it keeps lifting up here. I'm going to have to probably invest in some other brand of double-sided tape and see. I may even try the Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree has double-sided tape. You know, sometimes the cheaper the product, being like the tape and stuff, ends up being the best than what you pay quite a bit of money for does not like to work. And see, this is all, ugh. Okay, let's try this one more time. This is why I don't like using double-sided tape a lot either. And we'll see if I connect it to some of the other tape that was there, and then take it around and see if that'll help secure it to the fabric piece. Okay, let's see what it does. Okay. So I'll just say, try to connect part of your tape to the other part of the tape. So I'm just now going down the sides, pushing this down to cover the tape piece, making sure I'm not going over my line that's marked. And then, you know, because this does not want to stay down, I'm going to have to use some clips to keep it down until we get to the next part. Because this tape is not having it. Okay, just going through, taping down, and as I tape down, I am going to clamp down to try and keep as much as I can down so it does not rise back up. It's broken. And my finger is sticking to the tape and it's pulling it up. It's just a hot mess. Hot mess here. But we're going to make it work. But I'm just clamping so that it, you know, pretty much stays down. Now it's still lifting, but it has a little bit of a security. Okay. I'm just going to go down here, clamp here on this corner. So I want to keep my strong square edge on the top corner. And then, you know, this is going around. So I'm trying to make sure I keep my shape here rounded as well. And if you need to put a couple of slits in here so that you can force your rounding, then do so. Sometimes you can just manipulate it with your hands in the placement. And what we're going to end up doing is sewing the main body lining to this panel, the main flap lining. Because what we're getting ready to do is build our inside of the purse. You know, formulate that so that we can finish this out. And look at our end result. So as you can see, it's not that many pieces for the outer fabric and or the lining to the purse, right? It's just the gluing that takes time and this taping that takes time. So I have this, the shape is still there, rounded across the top. Okay, it's still rounded across the top, and then my sides are taped down. Okay, and clamped. Okay, so now what you want to do is, this is your main flap lining. you want to turn your good side down. So your wrong side should be facing you, which is the bottom side of your fabric. Okay, that should be up. So the the wrong side is facing you. You have the bottom part that shows your your lining as well. What I'm going to quickly do too across this bottom part is just draw my line, my centerpiece up just a little bit, just in case I need it here. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is take my main body lining, which is H3, and I have my quarter marking down here already with my center marked as well. Okay, I'm going to place this right side up. I'm going to then take my main flat panel that has the curve, turn it over to where that is going to reside on this piece. Okay, right sides touching. I'm going to lay it here at the top. So you should have flat to flat touching, as well as your center pieces need to be touching. Okay, so what you can do is take your center and bend it, and you can mark it with some chalk on the good side of the fabric, or if you crease it enough at the top here, you'll have a good crease in there to where you know where your centerpiece is. Okay, because what you want to do is match center to center together. Okay, and you'll have about a 1/4 inch or so, a quarter, or just about a little bit over a quarter, maybe it's a 1/2 inch of fabric on each end should be showing, and that's what you want. And I'm just measuring it out, and yes, it's a 1/4 inch from the end. Okay, so all I'm doing is matching my center pieces from both sides, and I moved it. Okay, to right sides touching, so the wrong side should be facing up here and the wrong side facing down. Okay, I am going to clamp this together because what I'm going to end up doing is sewing across. Okay, I'm going to sew this across. And you want to make sure that your bigger piece, which is your flap lining with the curve on the bottom here, is hanging over, so you have more under of your curve than you do the other part of the main lining. Okay, so once you clamp it together, you're just going to sew on that 1/4 inch line to attach them. Okay, so then against the pattern also says that once you sew this, you can take some more double-sided tape and tape it back, you know, underneath so that it stays kind of flushed. Well, I'm going to top stitch because all this taping, for one, my taping is not working as it should because I don't like this product. So I'm just going to top stitch it after I finish, and that makes for a nice flow too, and seamless flow. Okay, I'm just pulling out some just to make sure it's even on both sides, because again, my corners should be at a 1/4 inch away from the other part of the fabric here. Okay. Just attaching everything here. Okay, so I have my pieces here, and now I'm just going to go ahead on and top stitch. Okay, eyeballing, making sure my lining, my centers look good. And that does. Okay. So since we have it already marked on the bottom, the line, I'm going to sew on that line straight across. And then I'm going to wipe my needle down because like I said, it is sticky and I know it's going to start giving me some problems with this thread. Because I can feel it kind of, you know, your machine, right? And it feels like it's kind of jumping a little bit, vibrating like. So I'm going to actually clean my needle right after this. Alright, so what you'll end up doing, let me just cut the threads from my ends. If you follow the pattern, you will take these pieces and fold it back. Okay. So you'll have your crease coming that way. Like this, like so. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I am going to top stitch. Okay, I'm going to top stitch this so that it makes for a nice crease. So I'm just going to top stitch straight across. And then, like I said, clean my needle. Because I'm not going to use no more tape on this to make it worse. And that's why I said too, so if you can get away with not using the tape as much, and you know, folding down and clamping, then do that. Alright, so this is how your panels will look together. Okay? Alright, let me just get a little bit of acetone and clean my needle real quick. Because I don't like the way this feels. And it's just going to give me a headache with sewing the rest of this. I'm just moving my thread a little bit out the way so that doesn't become so soggy. And I'm just going down my needle. Be careful because some of these machines, you know, has these buttons and you don't want it to push down and start to try to sew and it goes through your finger. And ask me how I know that. Oh, trial and error. Okay, so it doesn't feel the gumminess anymore. Although it'll probably get back to that gummy feeling because we still gotta sew through some of that, some of the glue that we have already glued pieces together. Okay, so now what we're going to do is work on our pocket. Okay, so if you were to turn this way, you'll see. And I probably should have sewed it down some. You'll see this hanging over, turning it this way. And you know what? When I sewed it down, I need to sew it that way. I need to top stitch going down. Sorry about that. I'm like, something doesn't look right. I'm just going to top stitch this going downward. So just turning it some. Okay. I know it looked a little weird. Okay. Okay. Yep, just making it, just turning the flap inside the reverse so I can top stitch and it'll be flushed down. Okay. And I'm just holding it from the inside, making sure that the direction stays like I want it to be while sewing this going across. Okay. Okay. Now it looks much better. Okay. So there we have it. We have our little quarter pieces on our ends that are still sticking out. Okay. So now you're going to take your pocket piece. We're going to match it up top to top. Okay. Turn it inside out. So you're going to sew on the bad side. So I'm just putting my pieces together, and you'll notice when I cut my interfacing, I didn't go all the way up to the top. And that's okay too, because when I fold it in, it'll be just fine. So what I'm doing is making sure my corners match and my across the center piece, or I should say across the top, is flushed. And what we're going to end up doing is marking 3 inches so that we could turn it inside out once we finish sewing part of it. Okay, so we're not going to sew the entire thing shut. We're going to sew, we're going to sew around the corner here to the marking that we make for the first part of the 3-inch line. Come over to this side, finish sewing, leaving that 3 inches open in between and going down the bottom. Okay. And then you can also go ahead and sew straight across the top too, just to make your crease to where everything is consistent. All right, so let me take the ruler. The way that I like to do it is find my center marking. When I put my center marking on, I'm going to go 1.5 inches to the left and mark it, and 1.5 inches to the right and mark it. Then I have a 3-inch line. Okay, so if I was to put my ruler on the 3-inch where my center piece is, if I make that on the 3-inch line on the ruler, now I'm going to go 1.5 inches to the left and mark it, and then 1.5 inches to the right and mark it, and then I'll have a 3-inch line. And it doesn't have to be quite 3 inches, but you know, you want it wide enough so that you can turn it out and make sure that I'm just looking for my chalk, making sure that you have enough to be able to turn your fabric inside out, to turn it out, and then we'll finish sewing it shut. Okay. Alright, so if I was to now put my ruler on the 0, I have a 3-inch opening. Okay, so I have marked my lines there and my mark there, so I will not sew in between those lines, or the markings I should say. Alright, alright, so go ahead and sew. I'm just going to sew, I'm going to start from one part of the 3-inch mark. which is, that's just not working. I'm going to start on this end of the 3-inch mark, and I'm going to sew all the way around, okay, until I get back to the other side. That's how I'm going to do mine, and you're going to do this at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, okay. And let me just cut some of these hanging threads because I don't want my machine to catch it and cause additional issues. Okay. And when you start, making sure that you backstitch also, because you are going to have that opening there where you're going to turn out, and you don't want to, you know, mess that up. Mess this piece that you sewn. And it's kind of weird because, like, with my machine, most of the time it will turn itself, but what I'm finding is if the material is so thin, sometimes it has a hard time trying to turn itself, so I manipulate it and turn it for it. Shouldn't have to do it, but I do. Okay, I just want to sew my top so that it's kind of consistent. Okay, when I make it to that line, I just backstitched so that it'll be tight when I turn this inside out. So now turning it inside out will end up giving us the little indentation from where we sewed, right? So that it'll fold inside too, and we'll sew that in shut. Because what we're going to end up doing is placing this on the bag and then sewing it onto the bag as well. Now, in the pattern, you'll notice that CJ does not sew across the top, but I went ahead and sewed across mine, right? I see on the picture it shows that it's sewn, but the reference, you know, states to sew across one side, the top side. Oh, and actually, I'm sorry. It does say to start sewing down one top side across the bottom edge and up the other side. But I don't see where you're actually sewing the true top. So, but anyways, I went ahead and did it. You can do it too. And make sure your corners, get something that you can poke and get your corners straight. Okay. Get them poked out nicely. Okay. And then, like I said, because of how you sewed that, you have your crease there now. I like to just go ahead and find that crease and just clip it, right? So that it can start forming its shape to stay when I get ready to sew this shut. Okay. So, what she says is, you are going to find your center, right? So, because we're going to add this pocket, and we need for the pocket to go above this line just about 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch above this part, okay? So you have the two pieces connecting on what's your main flap lining with your curve facing towards the top. When you put this pocket on, it's going to be just 1/4 of an inch over that line. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to find my center. So I just want to do a big crease right across this so I can see it above this line. Because I want to make sure my pocket is in the center. Okay, and I'm just going to put a little bit of chalk right down here so I know where that center is. My chalk is going out. Okay. So what I'm going to do is fold this so that I find my center as well. The part that has already been sewn across the top is going to be your top piece that is going to hang over just about 1/4 inch on top. Okay. And then you have your bottom opening. And because I am using, waterproof canvas, not vinyl, I'm going to just pin this in place. You know, you can use a little bit of double-sided tape if you want, just so it holds to allow you to sew this into place without it moving. I'm just going to do one pin just through there so I know it will stay in place for me. Okay, so now I'm going to remove this tape because I don't want to sew on to this as well. And I'm just going to put it over here just as a reference. Okay, so now what I'm getting ready to do, I am going to sew this straight down the side, across the bottom, and up the other side. I am not going to sew the top because that's your pocket. Okay, so you're going to sew this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And this little corner, right corner part of my pocket is not fully popped out. So I'm just going to stick this in here and see if I can get this a little straighter edge on the corner. Okay. All right, so go ahead and sew that at 1/4 inch. Excuse me, I'm sorry, 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I want to make sure this is still recording. Okay. Because it just went out and I had to turn it back on. This camera has been giving me a fit today with recording. Has basically worked my last nerve. Okay, so you have sewn on your pocket, and sorry, my video didn't have enough memory, so I had to stop and delete some things off so that I could come back and finish this. But you should have sewn on your pocket, so this is what it looks like. If you have not, you want to make sure that you place your pocket on the main flap lining that is attached to the main lining. Raise the pocket just 1/4 above the line that we sewed earlier, connecting them together. And then making sure it's centered and sewing just around the 3 outer parts, right? So the 2 outer columns and your bottom to attach so that the top part of your pocket is still open. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next piece. The next piece is we're getting ready to get the gusset, the other part of the gusset, which is for the lining, ready so that we can make our purse shape with the lining and then put everything together. So what we're going to do is get both of our pieces, our front panel lining and our gusset, right? And these are your lining pieces. So for the gusset, it would be J1 or J3, right? Or J1 through J3 because you've you've taped them, all three pieces together for your pattern to cut. So what we're going to do, you would have also traced around what the pattern called for, right? A 1/2 inch around. So that should have already been done. And so now we're going to tape down the piece that we need to so that we can get ready to sew this and attach it to the front panel lining. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to get your tape, double-sided tape again. We are going to apply the tape right against the line. Okay, so against this line, not going over it, but right underneath it. We're going to do it for both parts, the top part here and the bottom piece here. Okay, so go ahead and get your double-sided tape and put that there, and then you are going to fold down on top of the tape. So let's go ahead and quickly do this. Ooh, my goodness, this tape likes to attach itself to my hand, but not to the fabric. Okay. And then we're going to do it for the bottom piece as well. So I'm just going to flip this over. And again, this is attaching the tape onto your gusset. Okay. And then what you're also going to do is on your front panel lining, your top line. So this is the front panel lining, which is your eye piece. Okay. You're also going to put tape right up underneath your line, your top line that goes across, and you're going to fold this down. That's the only piece that you're going to put tape. Okay, so go ahead and add your tape there too, and you'll want to fold down. So we're adding tape to the gusset and to the top front panel piece. Okay, and if yours is anything like mine, you may have to add some clamps to clamp it down until we get this sewn. So I'm just gonna pull off, push down, and sew. And again, you're just folding to where you know, you have a line made there, right? So you're just folding it over on that line, but making sure that it covers your tape. Okay, mine does not want to stick, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a couple pieces of clamps on just to hold this in place for both the gusset and this. Not too many, but just enough to hold it down. So about 4 pieces or 4 clamps on the lining, front panel lining piece, and then probably 2 on the gusset. Just until we get everything clamped to be able to sew it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, and that again is your piece I, your front panel lining. And let me do the same thing for my gussets, both the top and the bottom. See if I can lift it better this way with it sticking more. I'm just trying to get in here and get just part of the tape. And again, I'm just folding down where the line is for my gusset. Okay, and I'm just going to put 2 little pieces or 2 little clamps here as well, just to hold it down. Okay, and I'm going to turn it over and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And when I tell you these clamps have been breaking all day, I probably have maybe 20 to 30 clamps left out of 2 big 100-piece containers. It's ridiculous. And maybe it's just the brand of those clips too. I got those off of Amazon, and they were just, I think it was like $6 for 100. So it could be that they're just too cheap. Maybe that's why they're breaking like mad. Okay. So now what we're going to do, we need to find our centers on both pieces. So we're going to fold this in half. We're going to get to our centers, and we're going to mark it. Okay, you know I like to mark mine top and bottom, right? So I can see my fold in here. I'm going to get my pen. I'm just dropping everything. I'm drawing a line where my center is there and there. Okay, so I have drawn lines where my centers are on both the top piece here and that side as well. Okay, I just want to be consistent, and I'm going to do the same thing with this piece. With piece I, I'm going to find my center as well. When we match this up with the gusset, we're going to start with the clear part, or I should say the free part of the bottom, right? The bottom piece that we did not curve down with a tape. So I marked my bottom down here. That's the flat curve piece, not the top piece that we folded. Okay, so just make sure that you fold the right piece and find your margin or your middle piece for your middle section of the right piece. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is match our gusset lining with our excuse me, with our good piece. Okay, so with the right sides facing each other, I'm going to turn my gusset over. Okay, but with the right sides facing each other, and I'm going to turn this right side over. So my wrong side is facing me. My right side is up my gusset. I'm going to lay this down, but I'm going to lift up to see my midpoints, right? My centers. And so I'm going to match my center of my gusset to my center of my main lining. Okay. And I'm just going to start clipping. So remember how earlier, and I may not have enough clips to go around because I have my other piece clip for that taped piece that we have. So maybe I'll just start with one side first. So I have clipped the bottom part of one side of the gusset. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing, bring it up and match the corners to corners and finish clipping. Okay, now keep it in mind, we do have that little curve piece that we have to take into consideration as well. Okay, so you want to make sure that that gets lined up in the corner piece here. Okay, so go ahead and clip. And then if you have enough clips, you could do your other side as well. But I may have to do side by side because of my clip situation here. Or take some clips off of the other. Okay. I'm just going to fold a little extra piece down some of what is extra within my, to make sure I got that clipped. Okay, so this is how I have clipped part of my gusset. And what I'm going to go ahead and do, let me just, I want to get really as much as I can. So I think I'm going to take some clips off of the other piece that's holding that tape down, because it'll be folded enough to I know how to sew it across the top. Remember on this one how I clipped my top piece because my tape wouldn't stay down? So I'm just going to take off some of these. Not all, but some. Like every other one. I don't need to have that many on. Just so I can go ahead and line or get together the other side of my gusset. Because see how the tape has just pulled away. It's just ridiculous. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pin up the next side. Now some people like to start at the top by pinning, right? And then coming down. I like to pin along the bottom first and then measure up to the top because that way it's flushed. So let's go ahead and finish pinning this bottom piece here. And then once you finish pinning, you're going to go ahead and sew. And what you're going to do again is clip this together, and now you're going to sew around this though with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Not the 1/8 that we have been sewing with, but a 1/2 inch seam allowance, okay? So you may need to make a marking on your lining here for a 1/2 inch, because I know that a lot of us are just used to sewing at, you know, a 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch, but you want to sew at a 1/2 inch. Okay, let me get this turned around for this little corner piece here. And again, we are working with the lining. Okay, so what I'm just going to quickly do, okay, so I have all of this pinned up. So this piece is open, our lining matches together, our top and, you know, our gusset and our front panel piece. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just because I'm so used to sewing, and I know the gauge by eye, my 1/4 inch and my 1/8 of an inch, right? So I'm just going to make myself a little indentation here so that I really truly follow a 1/2 inch. Because right now, you know, your bag is marked, should be marked really at a 1/2 inch, but mine is not really quite marked that way. So, okay. So we're going to go ahead, sew around, and meet you back here in just a second. Alright, so we have sewed this around. It is attached at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and so what we're going to do now is cut this down to a 1/4 inch. Okay, just be careful and do not cut what you have sewn. So go around and cut down to a 1/4 inch. Okay, so once you get that cut, now what we're going to do, so now that that's been cut, what we're going to do is join the main lining panel to the front panel with the sewn gusset. Okay, so let me move all this out. Get my trash down here. Okay, my trash can. All right, So I'm going to take my, it's calling for this piece, which is your main lining. Okay, this is your main lining panel to the front panel with the sewn gusset. So what we're going to do is clip our midpoints. Okay. So we're going to turn this around. Okay. We have, remember we marked the other side of the gusset, okay, that we just sewed. Take where your centerpiece is on the other side of your gusset. Put the right sides together for your main panel with your pocket that you've sewn on. We're going to match the center pieces on both together where the centers are right sides touching. Okay, so we're going to be able to see the wrong side on the outside. Okay, so first just go ahead and clip up your bottom and then clip it up around the side piece here. And I'll show you this in just a second. Okay. So you can see what it looks like. Okay, so right now I've clipped my bottom piece to this, okay? So if I was to hold it up, you can actually see what the purse is. But this is the lining. So you should see your outside raw piece. If you turn it around the other way, that should be the outside. So all we're going to do now is match edges to edges, okay? So remember that little piece that we didn't, that we had, the little extra piece that was here on the corner of what we sewed, right? You're matching that up together. And once you get this all lined up, we are going to sew this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then we'll trim this piece down to a 1/4 inch. We almost on the home stretch. Almost done, almost done. You can see the purse is looking good. Because like I said, this is basically your purse, right? It's your lining, but your lining has shaped your purse. And all we're going to have to do is attach this to the main outer part. And the purse will be basically created. And then we just have to do the chain. Okay, so make sure you get your little corners in there really good so that it's rounded when it goes into your purse, the outer material. Okay, so once you get it all pinned up like it like it should be, go ahead and take this to the machine, sew it up, cut it down to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so by the time you cut it down, this side should be matching your flap. Okay, where your flap starts here, like your pocket piece that goes across to this part of the panel should be matching, because right now we're going to sew at a 1/2 inch, but we're going to break it down to a 1/4 inch. Okay, so go ahead, sew that, and then we'll be back to kind of finish this up. Okay, so this is what you should have, right? So this is all sewed together. So this is the inside of your purse. Make sure before we get ready to assemble the other pieces that, you know, you check, run your finger through the inside, make sure that everything is sewn accordingly. if you did tape up your bag so that you know your labels, make sure you pull your tape and stuff out, right? So I'm just going to take the tape off of this. And so what we are going to do now, get your double-sided tape that is like the 3/4 inch, or if you have some that's the full inch width, because what you're going to do is put a couple pieces of tape going across the front side and then around the bag, right, going around here, because we want to make sure that we tape it in to this front panel piece that has our lock on it, okay? Because then once we get that taped down and pushed into the bag, then we're going to actually get ready to sew this closed. So we only have these two pieces left to connect, and then to connect the main piece to the bag, and your bag is basically finished. Then the only thing we'll need to do is create the chain. Okay? So go ahead and put, again, 2 pieces of tape, or you can put 3, however you feel, going across the front panel, outside, and around the gusset, all the way around. Put a piece or 2 so that we can get this taped inside the bag and put in position so that we can sew this in. Okay? So I'm going to quickly show you how to tape, or how I'm taping mine. So I'm just going to add some right across this piece here. And again, it's just to kind of adhere this piece to this part of the front part of your bag. Isn't it looking cute? I must say so myself. Okay. All right, so I just have, 2 pieces here, okay? And then I'm just going to go around the gusset with the tape. And making sure when you go around your bag that you're not taping your bag positioning different, okay? Hold your hand in there so that you can go around and make sure that your bag is still flat, or the shape of the purse, because you do not want to distort it with taping, okay? Like you're taping part of your bag upwards or what have you, making it tighter than what it's supposed to be. So just be very careful with that. So maybe just push your fingers out onto your lining so you can see the shape of the bag still. This stuff is sticky. It likes to stick to my hands better than the material. What a shame. Okay, so I'm just putting 1 piece around, not 2. And so all I've done is I've gone around my gusset putting tape, okay? I'm going to pull this tape off. I'm going to sit this inside. So basically what you're going to do, once you pull your tape off, sit this inside, lining it correctly, okay? And you may want to go ahead and pin this piece to the top panel, right? So you can have some force to push your hands down in here to get that tape adhered to both sides. Well, I should say all 3 sides. The side of the gusset here, the other side of the gusset, and the front part of your bag. Okay, now the bottom part, because you do have tape on it too, get in there and push it, okay? So once you get it inside the bag, all taped up, it will basically look like this, okay? It'll be in the bag, okay? So go ahead and do that piece, and then we'll be back to get the lining attached to the bag by just sewing it across the top here. And then we're going to add our back piece on and sew that all around the bag, and adding our additional front part of the turn lock. We have to put that on. And if you have a bag tag, and I'll show you before we even put the back panel on, we'll go ahead and position ourselves to put our bag tag on, okay? So that's on the outside. So be back in just a sec so we can finish up. Okay, so I have my purse, or my lining is inside. I have it taped down. Make sure too that, you know, it's flushed from the inside when you tape it down. But as you can see, my inside is all taped down, and I have it lined up accordingly across the top of the bag. This is going to get attached to the main outside lining. We have our pocket here. We could test that by putting our hand in. So everything looks good. It's measuring up. Our back is still open, right? Because we're just going to push this in when we get ready to sew the back piece of the purse on. So it's looking good. Marvelous. Okay, so we're going to go ahead now, start sewing across the top edge at 1/8 seam allowance all the way across the top front against the top side, just attaching this lining to the bag. Okay, so we have sewn the lining onto the main part of the front of the bag. So again, your purse should be like this at this point. So you have your main part of your purse. Everything should look good. Let me take this tape out before I forget. So everything has been attached. And the last piece that we need to attach, of course, is your back panel that you still have outstanding, right? That should be the only thing left that you have to attach to this purse from a material standpoint. We know that we still have to do the purse strap, but there should be no additional pieces of material laying around. Everything should be attached. Okay, so you have sewn your sides up. Make sure that looks good. Everything is sewn together. And you know, as you're sewing this stuff, you just have to go real slow when you're going around your machine, because some machines, like I said, if you're working with a domestic, sometimes they don't like certain material you're using and or the thickness, right? So it just depends on your machine. So just go through, make sure everything looks neat and to your liking, because at this point we are ready for the back portion. Okay, so but first what we're going to do, because I am placing a bag tag on my bag, my purse, I want to get that, okay, and put that on first before I go any further, because otherwise, if I put it on after I attach this piece to the back of the panel, then the prongs and things will be shown, right? So I want to make sure all of that is hidden. So I'm just going to set this aside for a quick second. But just gaze at your bag and look how marvelous it looks so far. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So what you're going to do, we know that this bottom rounded part is what's going to go down in the front part of the purse, right, to connect with your piece that you already have there for your, what do you call it, your turn lock. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the way that I'm going to gauge this is I'm just going to fold this. So you see this piece here, this is our top piece, right? This goes across the top of the purse, and that's where we're going to put our chain through here. So if I fold it over on the back side, I'm just going to go down. I'm going to find my center point, and I'm just going to go down probably about 2.5 inches, and that's where I'm going to actually put my tag. I don't want to put the tag on the front. I think that just will look kind of bad, right? So I'm just going to put it on the back side of this. So just give me a second so that I can get this attached. And if you're putting a bag tag on, go ahead and do that. Some of you may be doing an inside tag, right? And you would have probably already sewn that in. If not, you can sew it to your the front part here of your pocket if you're doing a personalized fabric tag, right? So you can put that there. But I'm going to go ahead and I have tape, that masking tape, some of everywhere. So just remember to get rid of all that masking tape. So in case you are selling this bag, the tape is not in there. I know for a fact this one right here is going to be my personal bag that I will use to advertise. And then if, you know, someone is interested, then of course I will make another for them. But this one I am going to keep for myself because it is beautiful. Okay, give me just 1 second so I can add my tag. And then what we're going to do is, and if you're not adding a tag, you can go ahead and do this. You can go ahead and put tape, okay? Because we're going to have to attach this to the lining here. We're going to end up sewing it. But to keep everything flush, put some tape going across here. That's double-sided tape here, your mid portion, and probably 2 or 3 strips on the bottom body. Okay? So go ahead and do that while I put my tag on. And then once I come back, we'll be ready to tape this to the back of the purse lining. Get it all lined up. We're going to clip it all around, and then we're going to sew that at an 1/8 seam allowance, okay? So just be prepared to do that when I come back, and then your bag will be sewn completely, and all we have to do, again, too, is add our female piece of our what do you call it? Turn lock, and put our gussets, or excuse me, our, what do you call those things? Grommets, and on the top part where the chain is going to come through, and then just make the actual purse strap, and then voila, you have your beautiful Chelsea bag. Okay, so be right back. I'm just going to go ahead and put my tag on and be right back. Okay, so I've added my bag tag right here. It is my logo for AG Designs, my company name. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to match and line up our lining to this back panel, as long as you have put your tape on. Okay, I haven't taped mine yet, but you want to make sure that you have tape on this panel so that you can line everything up nicely. If you see where your sides of your lining is not folded in enough to where the outline will not go over your purse, then tuck that in just a little bit better, because we're going to end up sewing all of that together and sewing it shut, okay? Make sure you line all the way around the bottom of the purse, round your corners in. Get that all ready, and then we're going to go ahead and sew that down at 1/8 seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this up, apply it, and position my lining. I will go ahead and sew this and come back, and we will have a completed sewn purse. All we need to do at that point is we're going to install our eyelets at the top. So I'm just positioning this just a little bit just to kind of see what it's going to look like. But we'll sew, or excuse me, we'll create our holes at the top going across for our grommets. We'll also position this to where our turn lock can lock, okay, with the front face part. And then work on the chain, get that in here. We're done, okay? So be right back. So go ahead, tape down, then attach everything together. Make sure it's nice and neat. Sew at an 1/8 seam allowance all the way around to connect the entire purse together. And then meet me back here, and we will work on the top part of the grommets. We'll work on the chain, and then we will also work on installing the front piece of the turn lock. Okay, so we have finished sewing the purse. Now I'm going to tell you something that I forgot to do. So when I went offline so that I could glue my or not glue, but tape my panel before sewing all around the purse, I got distracted. Call came in and I didn't put tape behind on my panel, the front part of my panel, to tape my lining down to it. I mean, it's okay because it's for me, but I just know going forward I can't allow myself to get distracted, okay? Because I think it would be flushed a little bit better and not as, you know, poofed out a little bit. It'll be more stable here. So other than that, I think we're looking pretty good with the purse. So now we just need to add on our grommets at the top and configure our chain, and then put the rest of the other piece of the turn lock on, and then this is complete. So what we're going to do is get your A2 piece out. Hopefully you have cut your holes out. I just went ahead and cut my holes. Because we're going to need to use this to place on top so we'll know where to cut the grommets, right? So I'm just going to position here. I know shutting my bag, I can see where it needs to go. So I'm actually just going to place 2 clips just to hold the paper, right, on either side. And then I'm going to open the bag and lay it flat so that I can mark my circles and then go to the grommet machine. So I just wanted to lay it like this, right? Opening this up and laying it like this will just help me better. So I am going to get some chalk, and I'm just going to probably just put like an X in the middle of each one, right? So that I know I hit the spot in here. And trying to make sure I can see it because this is black. So I just want to make sure I get within that realm of it. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my grommet press over here. Now, sometimes I don't have good results with the grommet press, where it doesn't want to go all the way through the right way. You know, it just gives me problems. But we're going to see what happens this evening. So, let me just bring this up a little bit. Okay, so you can see. So, I have marked my areas with some chalk, so I'll know where I need to place my holes. Let me get my pieces here. Okay, so this one I'm going to put in the bottom of my grommet. I've already screwed in the top piece that's going to actually cut. So I'm just going to put this down in the bottom so that the hole, or excuse me, my machine will cut the hole. Okay, so I just set it in there. Now I'm going to take my paper off because I know where my holes should go. And let's see how this goes. I'm going to sit this in here. Just the flap. It will go on top of the circle. I'm going to just push down a minute just to try and get the positioning. Not pushing down all the way, but just enough to kind of put this in place. Okay. Let me see if this is going to work and cut. I felt it go down. Let's see if it went all the way through. Okay, sometimes it'll go all the way through and sometimes it doesn't for the whole circle. So as you can see, it did attempt to go through. So I'm going to have to either put this back under so it can kind of cut the rest of the hole on the other side, and or just take my scissors and finish, which I think I'll just take the scissors, and finish the little part of the circular hole here. Because we're going to, you know, like I said, end up putting the piece of the grommet through so that we can enclose the hole. And see, this is like what we have: the material, we have the lining, and we have the stabilizer, right? So it's trying to go through all of that. But I'm just trying to make sure too that I'm not creating a bigger hole around, because I want to make sure that it is clean enough when the grommet goes through to secure it. Okay. Let's see if I could just maybe push a little harder on the second one, and let's see how that goes, right, with creating the hole. Because the thing is, I can hear it. I can hear it go through, and maybe I should just turn it and go through on the other way. So again, it cuts out half. Well, this one cut, I think it went through. Okay, so it got through the first piece, and then here is the second part of the hole that it didn't finish cutting through the actual lining. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you one of putting the grommet in and securing the hole, and then I will go offline and finish cutting the other two holes and then securing the grommets for all three, the remaining three. Then we'll come back on here and we'll put the turn lock front piece on. So make sure that you have your piece A1 from your pattern, because it has the piece here, but we need to put the front part of the turn lock on the little plate. Okay, so let me just show you how I'm going to close the holes up. So let me get the grommet and the seal. Okay, so I have the grommet, the male part, I'll say. I'm going to push that through the hole here, making sure that it's coming through on the lining side to where the fabric and everything is around the top metal piece of the male part that is sticking up. Okay, because then I'm going to put the ring, and I'm going to take this piece out. See, it gets kind of stuck in there too when you start to press down. So this is what I like to do all at once, and then seal all at once. But I just want to show you, so as you go to do yours, it should be fine. Okay. All right, so I'm going to now place the top that has the top male piece that you can kind of click on. Okay, so I'm going to place that here in the grommet machine. And then sit my grommet. Maybe I'll do it this way. It'll be easier. I'm going to sit the male part in. Then I'm going to take my piece that has the hole, sit that in. And get it under in position. Okay. Then I'm going to sit the seal on top. Okay. Down in there. And then I'm going to push this down to close it. Let me just turn it that way. And you can feel it going down to secure. Okay. So there you can see the hole. You can see my finger coming through it. My nails popping in through the hole. So I have pushed it through and it is secured. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the other three. And then we'll be back to put the front plate on for the turn lock, and then we'll work on the strap. Okay. Okay, so I have my my grommets in all four. Okay, so the holes have been cut, flushed through, and I have them all in. So now it's time for us to put together or put the front plate on to be able to close the purse. So you want to get your A1 piece, right? So the A1 from the pattern piece, and this is from the main panel interfacing. You're going to put that down here across, match it across the panel, making sure you bring it up to the top so everything is balancing, okay? And you want to draw your cutout portion in here. Now, depending upon what kind of turn lock you have, you may have to cut out a little bit more. But I at least made my starting point there. Now, the turn locks that I have, instead of it being square, it is a round portion, right? So all I'm going to do now is take this one and put it on the front because I know where it should go, right? Based upon what I just drew. And so all I'm going to do now is just make this circle here. Now, what I'll need to do is cut through all of this fabric. So I'm going to actually get my seam ripper. I'm going to go through and cut this circle out. Then I'm going to come back and from this side of the bag, I'm going to push through my outer, which is the female part. Okay. On the other side of the purse, I will put this on there and then push the prongs down, so therefore to be secure, and then we can actually close the purse. And then the last thing we'll need to do is make our strap to go through the grommet holes. And then you would have successfully completed the Chelsea bag by CJ. Okay, so let me start cutting this out. I'm going to go offline and cut it out because I want to get it just right. And this way you can actually start cutting yours too to make sure you get it the right way for your bag, okay? Depending upon what type of turn lock you have. Now, if you are not using a turn lock and you're using a snap, then go ahead and get your snap placed on your bag, okay? And then we'll be back to close this out. Okay, so I have installed my turn lock, so the place is on, so I can open and close it. So if we just want to look at what we have created so far, so we have our inside lining with our pocket right here, along with the inside of the purse to be able to put whatever in. Okay, we have our grommets at the top. Our 4 holes are placed here. And then we also have our turn lock put on the purse as well. So at this point, now all we have to do is create our chain, well, which is our strap. And once we do that, you are done with the purse. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and work on the strap. And again, I did not do that strap last time. So prayerfully, we can follow the instructions and it will come out just like it's supposed to. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, so now we are ready for our last step. We made it this far. So what we need to do is now sew together our strap, right? Or the piece that we're going to weed through the chain. So make sure before you start to sew this, I would suggest that you test how much or how wide your holes are in your chain first with the material. Okay, so the pattern calls for you to cut 58 inches of your material to be able to put through. And then you'll sew it down a half an inch and then cut it at a 1/4 inch, right? To get it down even further. Well, because my holes are smaller, what I ended up doing is cutting my material in a 1/2 inch. Still the 58 inches length. But I cut it in a 1/2 inch. So where I fold it over, I'm basically sewing it kind of like a 1/4 inch. But I'm really going to probably try and sew it like an 1/8 of an inch so that I can even trim it down a little bit more so it's easier to weed through the holes. Okay, so I did a little test run just to make sure, you know, how it would end up. And here is me sewing this at a 1/4 inch. I want it to be just a little bit thinner, just a little bit thinner, so I have no issues with weeding through. And to make sure, because again, you know, I'm a visual person, and as I was looking through the actual pattern, I was like, how are we going to weed this through? I just really couldn't understand the concept. So what I did was, I went and got some yarn. You could probably do this with thread. But I just had to piece it through to make sure that I fully understand how this weeding was going to start because of the overlap, right? So you may have to do that sometimes. Just go and get something else that you can kind of weed through first before you start working with your strap or your sewn piece of your material, because you don't want to mess that material up trying to get it through and then it's not working right. Then you have to re-sew it. So just perform your little test just so that you know what you're doing, right? So what we're going to do now is go ahead, sew your strand together. Once we finish sewing, then we'll weed through the chain. I'll start you through weeding through it, then we'll go offline so you can finish weeding through yours as I weed through mine. I will come back then with a completed chain, and then we'll actually put it on the purse and we're done. So what we're going to do, go ahead for this first step, sew your strip of fabric down, right? So once you do that, make sure you cut some of it down after you've sewn it to make it even a little slimmer. Then we'll start the process of weeding it through the chain together. Then we'll go offline so you can finish weeding through your chain. Then we'll come back, put the purse chain into the purse, connecting it and closing up your chain. So hopefully you have your equipment on hand. So I think these are called what? Needle nose or bottle nose. I think it's needle nose pliers, to be able to open your chain ends and to close it, right? Because we'll need to link the two ends together so that they close. And then we would have successfully completed the Chelsea bag by CJ. So I'm really interested in seeing how this is going to look with this chain on versus the original chain that I put onto this bag, right? So I'm excited, and I'm actually excited to know that I've followed her pattern the correct way all the way through, including using this chain. So let's go ahead and get started. Meet you back here in just a second after I finish sewing mine down. Now, one other point is, because you know you need 58 inches, right, of the material. If you do not have 58 inches in length with the current material you have, cut a couple pieces together and sew them in the middle to meet, okay? I know some of you have done that in the past with other patterns when you're creating straps. So you don't have to have a piece of material that is truly the true length. You can cut two pieces of it, fold it together or match it together, sew that just to connect it. And you might have to do that a couple times, right? Just depending upon what the length is of your material. So we'll be back in just a second to finish this out. Okay, so now we are ready for the fun part. So what we're going to do, so you should have sewn your strip, okay? And now what we're going to do is start weeding it through the chain. So I'll get you started with weeding it through the chain to show you how to get it through. And then we'll go offline. I'll finish it. Finish mine, you finish yours. We'll come back, put it through the holes of the purse, and tie this off. And then we're done. Okay? So first, and for me, I'm a little uncoordinated with this. Just because the chain is flimsy, right? You just can't really control the chain right. But what you're going to do first, and she says to take 2.5 inches to start off with, okay? But you're going to take the first piece and insert it into the chain. And this is why I mentioned earlier, make sure your holes of the chain is wide enough for the width that you sew your strap piece, okay? So we're going to bring it through the first, okay? So all I did was bring it through the first piece here. Now I need to weed it into the next, I need to weed it into the next link, okay? So it's just going over and under, over and under. But again, like I say, the chains are just so flimsy, so I need something that I can help push my fabric through. I probably should have even made it just a little thinner, but it's okay. It'll work. I'll get it to work. Okay. All right, so once you get it through the first 2 holes, then what you're going to do is, and I'm going to have to probably do mine a little separate, because what you then need to do is put your end piece of your long piece, bring that up to, because you want to try and tie this off is basically what you're trying to do. So what you're going to do is bring the end piece of the long side, all right, so all the way to the end of that long length, to this, matching it to the shorter length, and then you're going to put both of those through the next hole. Okay, now mine is a little thick from the, you know, I can't put them both through the same time because of the hole sizes that I have on this chain. So I'm going to do it one by one. And that's basically to get it tied off, right? So that you can keep going and then your fabric won't move. So I've gotten one piece in. Now I'm going to attempt to put the second one in, and hopefully it's just not too thick to where it won't go through. I think I can get it through. And then you're going to keep weeding though with the longer piece until you get to the end, and you're going to tie it off the same way. So you'll run it back through, okay, to tie it off. So let me just get this piece in here, the same hole as the one that I just put the shorter piece through. And see, mine might be a little thick to get it into the same hole together, but I'm gonna get it in there. I will get it in there one way or another. Okay, I think I'm gonna try and clamp this up so that it can stay out of the way and not move back down the shorter end. Okay, so I can see just how much of a hole space I have to be able to weed the longer through. And don't get it all twisted up with the way that you're putting it in too. All right, you want the pattern to stay flowing the right way. Okay, I see a little bit that I can push through. It's tight, but I'm gonna get it through. And so this, what I did was I used just a regular piece of black vinyl material. It's not the shiny or anything like that. So it's a little drier. So maybe if you have some of the more shinier material, if you're using vinyl, it might be able to go through a little slicker and easier, right? Because it's thinner. But this is just a little thicker, which I think is a good thing, so it will help secure that one piece. Okay, so I'm getting it through. I just got to finish pulling it down and through in here. It's tight. And it's tight because it's two pieces going through that same hole, which, like I said, is going to be really good because that will secure the shorter piece, right? So just about got it finished all the way through. Okay. All right. So I got that through. Okay. So now I can keep going. So that's my end, and this is where I'm going to end up connecting the other piece of the chain through once we're finished, right? Because we got to connect both pieces of the chain underneath the purse. So, and this is what you'll have. Now, I might end up at the end, just depends. At the end, I might cut it a little bit just to make it a little shorter, and I might sew it, right? Sew it shut, and then cut it off, the little hang piece, because I don't want the hang piece to really show through. So, but anyways, what you're going to do is continue to go through each hole. So it's going to be a little time consuming, depending upon how thick your material is. And you should ensure that your material is truly longer than your chain, the ending of your chain. Okay, so that way you'll know you'll have enough to go through to get this piece finished. So go ahead and finish weeding your chain. Then I'll be back and we will put this through the purse holes and close it off, and then your purse will be completed. See you in just a second. Okay, so I have completed my chain linking everything through. Okay. So it was not an easy task, I will tell you that. Very time consuming, but the end reward I'm quite sure will be well worth it. So now what we're going to do is place the chain through the purse holes here at the top, and then take one of your extra links that you opened, and then we're going to use that to merge the two together, the two chains, and close it up. Okay? So first what you're going to do is open your purse and start at either one end, either your left or right side of the purse. We're going to go in underneath, okay? So just so you can see, I'm going in underneath in the outer, the first hole, and pulling this up and through. Okay, I'm going to take the second end and go in underneath and pull those through, and make sure that they both, the lengths, you know, match, right? So what you have is, this is coming through the top of the purse, and this is what you see right now underneath the purse, okay? So then I'm going to carry one of them. So I'm going to work with the inside hole first and come over and go down and through the inside hole on the opposite end. So this is what you have, and it's pulling that through. Okay, and then take the outer one from the far left hole and come over to the far right hole on the outside and pull that through. Oops. And be careful so you don't pop out your your work, right? The holes from your work. Okay, so now I have this end result here, and it's coming out of the inside of the purse. So now what I'm going to do is the link that we took out, I'm going to feed that back through one end and through the other end, and then seal it shut. Let me open. I might have to open it just a little more since I now have fabric in here. It's just a little harder to get through. So let me just make this a little wider. Okay. Still seems like it's not open enough. Let me just open it a little wider. Okay. Now let's try. Okay, so I got that one end on that side, and now I'm going to take, since it's in, I'm going to take the other and loop it through and then just close it up. Then we can pull the chain up some on the outside of the purse and see our beautiful work. Okay, so I got that one through the second. Now let's close this up. And these chains are kind of tough too. Am I not gripping in the right spot? Let's see here. I'm trying to make sure I get a good grip on it so that I can pull it closed. Okay. That took some work. Let me just try and smush it a little bit here. Like these are, I might have it to where, okay. All right, so the other chain can't come through. Okay, so now this is closed underneath. So what I'm going to do is just pull it up a little bit. And again, I'm being careful because I don't want any of this, our good work, to come undone. All right, so just feeding it underneath to make sure that it gets flush in the corner here too. And just make sure, like I said, when you're doing this and working with these grommets and everything, test your holes first to make sure you have the right size, okay? Because you don't want to go through and do all this work and then you have the wrong size holes here. Now, I don't want this piece to show, so this is how we threaded the part of the chain in the beginning. So I'm just going to pull this back through and kind of pull this down some because I want both of those threaded sides to remain underneath. So I don't want that to come through. So I just want to pull some more from to get it kind of even to where when it comes up, that part of the chain is not going to be shown. Okay, because I want what I'm trying to make sure I do is keep the bottom two pieces that shows the threading. I want to keep that inside the purse. Okay, I think I got it here. Okay. All right. There. Okay, so now let me close this up with the buckle. And here we have it. the purse with the 2 chains, or the double chain, I would say, the double chain effect, right? As you can see, it's really cute, really, really cute. I actually like this. Now, I have seen before in some of the stores, or even online, I think it was not in the stores, I'm sorry, online, where I've seen threaded chains before and they had different colors. So to prevent all that work, because this is a lot of work to thread this chain, you may want to try and search, because I'm going to do a search and see where I've seen them. And I might even have some in my storage of chains that I need to go through and see. But therefore, you can use already the pre-threaded, you know, chain, so you don't have to do all that work. But this really makes a beautiful purse. It really does. So again, the material that I used was a snake print, along with the internal snake print of waterproof canvas. Okay, so hopefully this video would have helped you in creating this purse. I'll just say, just make sure you measure and cut everything accurately in the beginning, right? I saw where, you know, when I was piecing things together for myself, I could actually see some little misses still. Make sure your corners, when you cut on those patterns, if they're rounded, make sure you cut round with your material. And when you're gluing down, maybe snip the ends of the edges, right, where it's rounded on your material, so that you can glue it in the rounded form too. I didn't do that on the first or the second one, but I will do it on my third one because I want to make sure that I do master my corners and making sure that everything really looks good. But I must say that this is a really, really, really cute purse, and of course this will be for myself as well. I will put a picture of it on my website. However, this one that I made will be mine to tote first, and I will make some additional ones. So again, if you have any questions or concerns with the video that I have put out, please don't hesitate to reach out, ask your questions. CJ is also available for questions. And also, I must say thank you to CJ when she and I spoke, and she asked me to make the video for the Chelsea bag. So I am greatly honored to be able to have succeeded, and I hope that I have made CJ proud. So with that, I just say thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please take the time to subscribe to my channel. I do a host of all types of crafts, from sublimation, epoxy, I make bracelets, so in addition to purses. But anyways, thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.